Lonely Monk Productions. I don't know if you guys have listened to season 1 of this podcast yet, but yo,
that's my Jawn! Hey yo, displace the guilt.
What's good, friends and family, neighbors, near and far? Welcome to the first episode of the second season of the Yo, That's My Jawn podcast. The podcast, website, brand, movement, way of life, dedicated to the embrace and championing of your passions. I am your host, Nate Runkle, a.k.a. Elton John, a.k.a. John Quincy Adams, a.k.a. Little John and the East Side Boys, a.k.a. John de Maximoff, star of Jawn Division, a.k.a. Bat John versus Super John, Jawn of Justice, a.k.a. Nate 3.0, here, excitedly, with more sounds spoken to microphones transmitted to your ears. As always, I hope this podcast finds you all in good health and in good spirits. In a short bit, I talked to musician Ben Arnold about his life in music, his solo output, his many side projects, and what is next on the horizon. You, as they say, will not want to miss it. Guys, I missed you. Welcome back. And if this is your first time joining us, and for many of you I'm sure it is, hey, what's up? I'm Nate. I know I said that already, but I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome. Well, the break was a bit longer than I was planning, but we're back now, and I'm really excited to be able to bring this show to you. The break gave me some time to go back and revisit the first 7 episodes, and, well, after I finished hating myself for how my voice sounds and how I'm quite sure it sounds right now, I came away with some things that I loved, some things that I thought needed some work, and, well, some things that I will probably avoid doing in the future. It's called Lessons Learned, folks. So I'm going to start trying some things differently this season. For one, I'm going to do a better job of editing the interviews. I got a little hung up on trying this guerrilla audio verite thing where I just sent it out all raw, man, because that's so honest, you know? Yeah, well, there's a time and place for just letting the tape roll, but I also realize I can make the package tighter. Side note, I'm mature now, so I will not giggle at that last statement I just made. Another thing we're going to try, weekly podcasts. That's right, every Monday a new episode. The interview episodes will still drop every other week as they did during season 1, but now on the off weeks in between, we're going to have little mini episodes called the podcast. See, I abbreviated it. It's a abbreviated podcast, so it's called the podcast. I'm going to use that space to just riff on the behind the scenes of the show and maybe play some music for you. Maybe I'll read some poetry. Maybe I'll read you infinite jest. Who knows? Let's find out together. Point is, I am happy to be back, and I'm happy you're here with me. Stick around, we have a lot of great guests lined up so far this season. I am shocked at some of the people who agreed to lend their time and chat with little old me. Speaking of, my guest today is a songwriter, musician, performer, and producer who has released countless label-supported and independent records throughout the years. An icon on the Philly music scene, he has had his hand not only in his own projects, but also in the collaborative acts 4-Way Street, U.S. Rails, and Pistol for Ringo. Most recently, he released the single My America, which American songwriter has said has, quote, a quiet urgency that makes it the modern-day flip side of Eve of Destruction, end quote. And, as you'll learn in this interview later, Bruce Springsteen has said, quote, I like that America song, end quote. High praise. Folks, it is my pleasure and my honor to welcome to this show, Mr. Ben Arnold. Record here. And it looks like we are recording. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm joined today by the very great Ben Arnold. Ben, thank you for joining me here on the show.
Good to be here, my friend.
So before we get started, I have a very odd story to tell you. We actually played an open mic night together maybe 10 or 11 years ago at the Dawson Street Pub. All right. And as I was leaving, you were
2 blocks away.
That's awesome. You were talking to Russ Einhorn, I think his last name is.
Eisenlohr.
Yeah. So I was saying goodbye to Russ, and you had told me that you really liked what I had played and that I sounded great, and I appreciate that. And then you said you look very familiar. Do I know you from somewhere? And I I had this weird response that in my head I was like, "Oh, you don't know me. I'm not anybody," right? But the way it came out sounded so stupid. I was just like, "Oh, you don't know me, friend." And then I left, and like I've replayed that in my head for about
Uh,
10 years now.
if it makes you feel better, I have a lousy memory, so
Good, good, good. But
I do remember. I remember seeing you play. I do
yeah.
remember. I have some recollection of that. But man, yeah, time flies, right? 10 years ago. Wow.
Dude, it was like I was doing the math in my head. I was like, I don't know, it was like a year or two ago, and then I was like 3, 4, 5, and tick, tick, tick.
Yeah, right on. And you're still playing, or
Yeah, every now and again, not as much as I want, and not as much as I used to, but I still get out there.
right on.
So, tell me a little bit about what a child like Ben was like. Where did you grow up? Like in the area, right?
No, I grew up in upstate New York, Rochester, New York,
Oh, really?
just outside of Rochester, New York, and I moved to Philadelphia in the summer between eighth and ninth grade, which
Okay.
was a long time ago, a very long time ago, 40, 43, 4 years ago, something like that. Yeah. But I moved here between eighth and ninth grade. I grew up and my mother was a singer. I grew up dying to learn how to play piano. My brother and sister got piano lessons by the time they were both older than me. This is kind of an old story. By the time it got around to me, my parents were like, we've been wasting our money with them, so we're not doing that. You want to learn how to play piano? There's a piano. Go learn how to play. And and I did not. I messed around on it a bit, but it wasn't until ninth grade when I moved to Philadelphia. I came to Philadelphia. We moved to it's a long story about my parents splitting up and all this kind of stuff. But we ended up moving to Northeast Philadelphia. I got enrolled in George Washington High School, which I virtually never went. My mother would leave for work at 7:30. I was supposed to leave like right after that, and I would basically just stay home. And in that year, I pretty much learned how to play piano. I mean, I was the beginning of me learning how to play piano. We had a bunch of little chord books sitting around, and I had a friend. His name was Mike Morgenstern, and he wrote down on a napkin at Pison's Pizza the formula for major, minor, suspended, maybe dominant seventh and major seventh chords or something like that. Kind of just where you would place your fingers, what the intervals were. And I took that napkin home that I still have to this day, and kind of just matched it up to what I saw in these little music books and figured out the rest. And to this day, I have a style. I have a very I play piano like you play drums. My left hand is the kick, and my right hand is the snare. And I play kind of a bluesier version of Neil Young. That's my style. But it's worked out okay for me.
That's amazing that you still have that napkin. You said your mother was a singer. What kind of music was she singing?
Cabaret, Jewish folk songs. She was like playing in the Catskills kind of circuit sometimes. In New York, she would go down to New York playing some of the cabarets. A lot in upstate New York. She did a lot of music therapy for veterans of World War II.
Oh, it's tremendous.
So she was doing a lot of music. She was very instrumental in the infancy of music therapy, what became like a regular thing. We actually, my mother is now has pretty severe dementia, and she's in a home. But so we've cleared out her house, and one of the things I found was this. Here, wait, we're on Zoom. It's amazing. Because I happen to have it right here. Got this reel-to-reel tape that's from 58, and it's her being interviewed on New York radio and singing, and it's just such an awesome treasure. I just had it what do you call it? Translated? No, I had it. There's a word. I had it put to DVD and a digital file, or a CD and a digital file. So yeah, we're psyched about it. It's pretty neat.
That's really cool. That's really awesome to have.
Yeah, I had to even listen to it a few times because it was like kind of didn't originally sound like her, and I was like, no, that's not her. That's not her. And then all of a sudden I realized, oh wait, that is her 22-year-old self. And our voices all change, and her voice changed fairly drastically. But it's just like, oh yeah, that's her. She had a Southern accent. My family was long story, but we originated in the United States in Nashville, Tennessee, and migrated to Pittsburgh and Ohio and places that are sort of Southern, where people sort of have these weird Southern accents where you're not in the South. Yeah. Why do you have that? But they do.
Yeah, so, I lived in Western PA for a few years, so I definitely
it's that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, on that, like, have you been able to play her that recording at all? I know you said she has dementia.
She doesn't even shoot.
No. Yeah. It's tough. My grandmother, had dementia pretty bad, but, oddly could still sit down. She played accordion. And if you put the accordion in her hands, like memory or not, that was one thing that definitely stuck, and she could riff
awesome.
it out.
Now, my mom is, she knows who we are, but she doesn't say anything. She's very nonverbal. Doesn't really say anything. She sits there while my brother and I talk or something like that. But, no, that's cool. Are you of Italian descent or?
No, German, Irish, some Arabic, like a whole bunch.
There you got accordions. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so like what kind of music was going on around the house when you were a kid?
From my parents, it was definitely all of the big band / Rat Pack kind of variety of music, a lot of cabaret kind of stuff, but that, all the way going to Latin and jazz. My parents really liked Latin and jazz stuff too, and my sister who is almost 10 years older than me, and lived down the hall from me and my brother. So she would be, 16, 17, 15, whatever. And we were whatever age that is, 5, 6, 7. And she had funny smells coming from down her room and black lights and lots of posters and a lot of Beatles, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Neil Young, Hollies, Animals, all the, a lot of classic rock. She was way into it. And then she went into because there was a brief, in the very early 70s, there was a brief bluegrass revival that happened in the United States. And she really kind of, I think more like she latched onto the social side of it, but she ended up buying 2 guitars. She had a beautiful Guild 12-string. I will never forget that she lost somewhere along the line that I could kill her for it right now. But
man.
But she started to turn me on to a lot of stuff. But I do remember, I don't know, my friend Dave Martin in 5th grade. We were both, trombone was my first actual instrument, by the way. I didn't mention that. Trombone was my first instrument in 5th grade. And me and my friend Dave Martin took trombone. And Dave also is the one who turned me on to Madman Across the Water, and a lot of Elton John, a lot of Paul McCartney. He was the first one that got me into like Wings and this kind of stuff. Tommy, my brother and I were really into the Tommy record. I remember when we were little kids, and my dad ended up taking us to see The Who doing Tommy, and when we were like 10 years old, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, I mean, I come from a fairly classic rock background. Oh, there's a lot of musical theater in there too. I was never good at it. I'm a horrible actor, but I was a decent singer. So they were like, "Oh, you play the guy? Okay, sure." Something to do, meet the girls, hang out. I'm a terrible memorizer, so it's just be like the last day before a play, and I'd be like still going like, I don't know my lines. I don't know. They'd be so pissed, and then I would learn them overnight somehow or another. But and succeed. So in
That's
the
great.
end,
That's great. So you're teaching yourself how to play piano in those years and stuff like that. Can
I'm
you
still
remember?
teaching myself how to play piano.
Still teaching?
I learned how to play guitar. I bought a guitar when I was 22, maybe. I think 22 or 23. I had never played guitar. I bought one when I was about 22, 23, and I was like, I just want an instrument that was more portable.
Yeah.
And and it took me a solid 10 years, and now I'd say I'm a pretty decent guitar player. But I'm not a lead. I am not a lead player by any means, but I'm a very solid rhythm player, and I can come up with some stuff.
You
But
can hang.
yeah, I'd say I'm about equal. I'd say keys and guitar. Probably keys a little better, but you know. I write songs, so the instrument supports the songs, and anybody else, I'll hire them.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
So, can you remember like when you started, like, were you always kind of creating songs even before you could play them, or did it?
Yes, I was creating songs from the time I was very, very young. Yeah, I always was coming up with melodies. I have a harmonic memory. Or a harmonic gift, I would say. I hate saying that, but I sort of do. I can sing harmony to anything, and I always have my whole life. I've always chosen the harmony to sing over, and and always get it pretty much on the money. Even songs that I don't know, it's a little tick I have. But I always, along with many other ones, but I always, yeah, I was always coming up with little melodies and little ideas for songs or a little play or this, that, and the other. I was a kooky, creative kid. What can I tell you? I
Yeah.
still am.
I was just gonna say, they don't change, man. It doesn't
Yeah,
change. It sticks
yeah.
with you. You're teaching yourself to play, and are you playing in any bands and all? In that high school when you're learning, or
Yeah, I went to Philadelphia after that fateful ninth grade. I went to summer school and ended up. They squeezed me through ninth grade. I don't know how. I don't care. My mother was smart enough to recognize that I was failing miserably there, and she had heard that Philadelphia school system was opening the Philadelphia High School for Creative and Performing Arts Kappa down at Broad and Spruce, and she suggested I go and audition. And so I do. My mother's been an amazing force in my life. Had she not done that, I very well would not be sitting here talking to you because she was wise enough to recognize that I needed to do something different, and going there completely altered the course of my life. So.
yeah, strong pedigree coming out of there. Like a lot of great Philly
Well,
musicians.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was in the second graduating class from there, and the place it's been there now and that was 1981. So it's
Okay.
been there a long time, and probably moved 4 different locations since then. But it was amazing. I just had a great time. I ended up living in Center City. All of my friends were visual artists, dancers, singers, actors. It was, we owned Rittenhouse Square and South Street, and it was just a great time of life. I ended up getting a job. That's how I found the restaurant business. Also, I had a hidden talent I did not know for cooking, and I ended up getting sucked into the restaurant business from 10th grade. I got a job on Chestnut Street, and back when, I don't know, I could get away with getting a job when I was 15 years old. I don't know how that happened, but I did, and I worked in and around that restaurant organization. That was I don't know how familiar you are with Philly at all, but Philly
Pretty familiar.
restaurant scene. But there was a guy, Steve Pozis, had a restaurant group that had Frog, Commissary, Eden, 16th Street Bar and Grill, all these, like a whole bunch. He was like the Steven Starr of the 80s.
Okay.
And I ended up staying in that business for many years, and pursuing music at the same time, because that was back when I couldn't figure out how to, like, what did that mean that I was pursuing music? I was like writing songs in my bedroom and occasionally playing with, some slipshod kind of bands here and there at like local pubs or something. But it wasn't until I was in bands early in the very early '80s. Long story. I lived in Seattle. I lived in Virginia. I lived back in upstate New York, Canada. I lived a whole bunch of different places. I moved around a lot, and but I was always involved in bands. And but it wasn't until I'd say about 1989 or something like that that a friend of mine that was in a fairly successful Philly band called the Daves at the time, and who I still am friends and still work with, actually. He was like, dude, your songs are really good. Maybe we should like record something. And I was like, oh, recording? What a concept. I don't, what do you do? How do you do that? Yeah. And we had a mutual friend who had a recording studio down on 2nd Street, but on 2nd Street, Northern Liberty, 2nd Street was, a ghost town. And we ended up cutting a little cassette of, 3 songs. And then I started getting some gigs, and then we were like, oh, let's do a whole record. We did a whole record, and it came out in 91, I think, a little CD. My first CD, only CD, no cassettes printed. And it was kind of from there I kept going. I caught the bug. I mean, I love the challenge of writing a group of material, a collection of material. I love the challenge of seeing what it can be in a recorded environment. So how, what it can be beyond just the song in production. And, so, and since then I have a crap load of music out there, man.
You do. And, not just alone, but collaborating with other people and stuff like that. Yeah. I mean,
I've had 6 record deals over time. I've had, I have probably, 9, 10 with them, probably 10 on my own. Probably, I probably got about 28 records out with my name on it, that are either my name or 4-Way Street, U.S. Rails, Pistol for Ringo, something, one of the bands that I mainly write for or something like that. So,
yeah. So when you're writing, for like 4-Way Street or writing for U.S. Rails or anything like that, do you have stuff that you specifically are like filing away, like, oh, this is for me, this is for that,
Totally. I mean, kind of going back to this ability to harmonize. For some reason, that was kind of a I don't know, the hint that maybe I should be involved in a harmony band of some kind or another. I mean, I was always in choirs too, like throughout, from time I was in 3rd grade. I was always in choirs and stuff, so I really learned all about all harmony, solfege, all that stuff, sight singing, sight reading, blah 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 blah. Oh, it's very exciting. But when I look back, I mean, some of the secular music I was singing, some of the, it's really, I mean, it's complex, it's interesting, it's definitely inspired me, and it's stuff that I go back to time and time again, just to kind of revisit and go like, oh yeah, that's what we were kind of doing. Maybe we could do something like that in a pop context or something. Or in a folk context, because of folk music. A lot of folk music is really riffing on a lot of the classicists. So, but do I write for it? I write for projects. It's an ability that I have developed over years, where I know how to write for a particular project, and that includes differing projects that I'm doing for myself, such as the last few records I've done where it's a theme. I find a theme. I've been, not to meander, but like for a year now, well, since the beginning of this pandemic, when we got back in March, and for several months after that, I would talk to people, and of course they'd say, hey, well, you must be writing and doing all kinds. You must probably have wrote a whole record by now. And I'd be like, nope, haven't written a damn thing, nothing. Tried a few, tried a little bit, but I hadn't written anything. And then what I realized is, like, I hadn't found a theme. I hadn't found the thing that I'm going to write about. And so, like, I'd say 2 records ago was Lost Keys, and that record was, I knew I wanted to do this record that sort of reimagined what, a Motown Stax kind of Philly soul, of an era would sort of sound like, kind of updated, but all told through my own, a lot of shitty relationships and, some good ones and whatever, and to kind of tell those stories. And then I reappropriated that into Sunday Morning Meltdown, which was the last record I put out, which was kind of all those musical themes, but limited into more of a Memphis kind of sound, but limiting it to I don't think there's no love songs on it. There's not one on there. It's all pretty much political, and that was way pre anything. That I wrote most of that record just leading up to the election of Trump. And then that's when I wrote most of it. And then I wrote a few afterwards, or right when we were recording. And then this new one that I'm kind of working on very slowly, so has no name or has no nothing, but I just know that it's basically a kind of a Memphis-y more country-inspired record. Also heavy on politics, but also I'm really just trying to I know that what's going to happen is there's a song on there called Hollywood Country, and that's kind of the theme of the whole thing. It's like, and the line is, "This ain't real, this is Hollywood country." And because I'm not a country singer, I'm basically putting on an act, and I decided to just kind of make the whole thing like just a big freaking joke, but with serious subject matter at places, but like, I'm gonna be this character for a record, and so that's what I'm working on right now. And then as far as like U.S. Rails or Four Way Street, those bands that were heavy harmony, kind of CSNY meets Beatles meets Eagles meets Beagles, I don't know. Those were, I would write songs that have big beefy choruses that, that could have, that, would be impressive to an audience when four guys all of a sudden slam into a harmony, that's not barbershop, but, an Eaglesy, Beatlesy kind of harmony. And then I'm also involved in Pistol for Ringo, which is kind of my LA-based band. It's not really LA-based, but the three other guys are in LA. Me and the drummer are here. And that's been an exercise in writing completely outside of my typical box. In I'm writing more of like a kind of a ever so slightly proggy, very alternative kind of early '90s rock thing, that's quirky and subject matter is quirky and titles and lyrics and everything about it is quirky, and the playing is, without a doubt, much quirkier than anything I have on my records. And that's because it's the sum of the parts there. There's just some players that come from I'm probably the me and the drummer are probably the most kind of, I can't say that. We're probably the biggest musical traditionalists. Where the other three guys definitely come from a bit more of a punk sensibility, but a little bit more like, punk in the sense of like, Pink Pixies kind of, early '90s kind of stuff. And I found it to be, I got invited, and you didn't ask me these questions. I'm just babbling at you.
No,
Okay?
I love it. I love
Use
it.
whatever you please. Okay.
I love it.
I got invited to that band. There was a guy that lived out here for a number of years that I was really good friends with. This guy Shane Smith, who had since moved back to L.A. and he got involved with this band, Pistol for Ringo, and it was kind of a project band. It still is. It's like a project band. We've toured a couple of times, but for the most part, we don't really play live. It would be nice if we did, but he moved out. He moved out there, and he became part of that band. And then just as they were going to start to mix their record, the singer quit, and he was never. And I'm not just saying this because I replaced him, but anybody would say if they listen to the stuff with his voice on it, you kind of go like, it sounds weird. Something doesn't sound right. Doesn't sound comfortable. And so they were like, hey, would you consider flying out to LA and re-singing this entire record? And that was when you would, I couldn't do it here now, but it's sure it's fuck more fun to go out there, And, I'll go out there where you got the good weed. And so I went out there and I replaced all the vocals. I just threw in a major Philly vocals. And we did that, and and that was almost 20 years ago. That was almost 20 years ago, and we've since made, I don't know, five records and done 3 or 4 tours, and and I write, I'd say 80% of the material now. The other 2 guitar players will always put in 1 or 2 songs on a record, and I usually write a bunch of the other stuff. Frankly, my stuff, I think, is more the filler stuff, but they always have kind of the hits that I'll help them kind of sculpt and finish. But I just love that project. It honestly is probably my most favorite music project that I do.
Yeah.
When I get to do it, it's just such a freaking blast. 9 out of 10, we end up going out to LA and hanging, doing the thing all out there. And it's just, it's a whole different lifestyle there, man. I love it. If I could afford it, I would be there, but I can't. You got to have Sugar Mom or something. They all do. But we're actually there. The plan is in the works. The tickets are possibly being purchased if nobody's going to die, or we don't, I don't know who the hell knows what's going to happen. But the plan is that this summer, this July, they're coming out here and we're going to cut a record out here. So,
awesome. That is awesome. Will you, so when you do that, will you play any shows around here while they're out here, or? Yeah,
they would want to, but it takes us so long to rehearse. It's like, I'm sure we'll go somewhere and play 3 songs or something like that. But,
Yeah. You'll have to let me know if that happens, because I'll
honestly, it'll probably be like at the Dawson,
yeah, totally.
If they're doing anything, it's like, or the Grape or something, somewhere where we can just go and do a few songs. It takes us like the few times we've toured, it takes us a solid 10 days, which is, nothing compared to a lot of bands, because we never play together and we record and we never play the songs. So it's like we have to spend 10 days learning, plus homework, learning how to do this live, So we've had some great shows as that band, though. We've played always weird, like playing at opening for a strip show in Vegas, or playing. We played not Spielberg, but not Spielberg, not Wahlberg, not. Oh Christ! Anyway, a famous director. We played his house for an Obama benefit years ago.
Wow.
Just weird stuff we get, Yeah. And then we played, like whatever hotel cafe or whatever up, in San Francisco, or in Oakland, or some punk rock clubs and stuff like that. But just a blast. It's always fun. It's always like one of the guys' dads who's like way retired and is 75 years old, just wants to get out and see the world, so he drives the van. We can use my van, and it's a very informal project. I'll put it that way.
That's awesome. On the kind of country themed thing. So does My America fall into that? That you put out last year? Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say that started it.
That's what started it. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't realize that's what started it, but I realize it now.
Yeah.
I wanted to go for 3 and 4 chord simplicity. I wanted it, 1, 4, 5. Even I say dumb it down. I don't mean that way. I want it. Any cliched, obvious influence, I want to welcome in there. I don't care. I'm not going to go out of my way to avoid, because for years I write fairly complex stuff. It's like it's not the kind of thing where, hey, jam, I always get, oh, come on over and jam. We'll play a few of your tunes. I'm like, no, we won't. You don't know how to play my tunes, and you don't know them. No, and I'm not giving you charts, and you're going to fuck them up, and I'm going to look shitty. So no, we're not going to do that. So they tend to be complex. These are every one of these songs is all fairly 3 and 4 chord, 1, 4, 5, with maybe a minor 6 or something. It's very simple stuff. Very in your face, simple lyrics that are as communicating. Some of them are super silly. I have a couple tunes like $100 fine for fighting, which is about a bar in Texas. It mentions a lot of states. I have a lot of states in this record. There's nothing European about it. It's all America. The whole thing is very American. And $100 fine for fighting, which is about a sign that's been hanging in a bar in Texas for years and years and years and years, 65 years, where, Johnny Cash and a million other major country stars of the day would play, and there's a big sign that says $100 fine for fighting, and I can't believe nobody ever fucking wrote a song with that, and I had to go looking it up. I couldn't find anything, so if they did, it's not very popular. So I got stuff like that, and then stuff like My America, or Indiana Sky, which is a song about the woman Lisa Montgomery, who was one of the last people put to death on death row before Trump left office, and the first female put to death on death row, who was completely incapacitated and had no idea what was going on, and it was a completely, as guilty as she was, it was a very unfair thing. I don't know what you're feeling about the death penalty is, but for me, it's as I say in the song, I firmly believe in you don't take an eye for an eye. So that's where I'm at, and so it has there's a lot of serious subject matter, and then there's Hollywood country, which is just about a guy that goes out to L.A. from the East Coast, a Jewish guy from the East Coast who goes out to L.A., ends up writing all these songs for the 50s Hollywood movies, 50s Hollywood Westerns, and it becomes like the guy, the go-to guy, which is often what happened, by the way. Yeah. We write all the best Christmas songs, so that's what would happen. And but and part of the punchline is I hope they don't find out who I really am, But anyway, and it's just about a guy who's like putting on a costume every day, going like, I guess I'm a country singer. All right. They don't know I'm from like Fifth Avenue, or Brooklyn, old Brooklyn, not new Brooklyn. But yeah, so. Yeah, no, man, I forgot what the question was. What was the question?
Did I answer it? You did answer. Yeah, it was it was just whether My America played into that. But yeah, that totally makes sense. Right. Totally makes sense. Yeah, I heard that song for the first time last year when it came out, and I was really taken aback. I think mostly the thing that stood out was, like you said, was the 3-chord guitar kind of structure to it, because the last few albums you were working with the 48-hour horns and like
orchestrations and blah blah. It's years, dude. 2 years of 2 years every record. It's like I don't have that kind of time. My idea for this record, whether or not, well, first of all, I'm I'm my own worst critic. B, I'm a perfectionist and a control freak to some degree. I've been told, but my plan is that this can be the kind of thing that if I get the right kind of group together. But first of all, I love my band. I always play with I always have great players. I mean, a couple guys kind of come and go a little bit, but mostly it's like I've been playing with the same people for 25 years, so everybody knows what their spot is, Yeah. And, but they also happen to be great at playing country music and, and country and swing and jazz. I got this guy, Eric Sales, who's been playing with me for years, and he's top notch, guitar picker, a telly guitar picker. It just sounds great. It's perfect. So if I can just do basic tracking with like four of us healthfully, in a space, which we happen to be lucky. We got a studio space that's big enough that everybody feels, so we might die. I don't know. But, we don't expect to. And doing something good.
I was just going to say, going out for music's great.
Yeah. So we will, hopefully the plan is to be able to at least be able to record all the basic tracking, super simple in the course of a couple days. I mean, both of my last two records, though, I did the basic tracking I did in 2 days for both those records. So, 2 days apiece for both those records. It was, I remember going into, it was a big buildup. I hadn't done a record in a while. I was so excited to do the Lost Keys record, and I was doing it by my buddy Phil Niccolo. Do you know Phil at all?
No, I don't.
Phil owns Studio 4, and now he owns Studio 4 Vinyl, which is really fucking cool. You should check that out. There's the only place on the East Coast that will eventually very soon. They just got their machines and everything, and they're doing like top fucking grade vinyl. Really
Nice
stuff. It's him and Obie O'Brien, guy that produces all the Bon Jovi shit. But they're opening their place off the boulevard somewhere. That won't be like a store; it's just a warehouse with machine and stuff.
Sure.
You know. Point being, went there. I was like, Phil's like, come on, dude. You know, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. He's like, because I get deals. So it was between Christmas and New Year's. I was like, cool. So he said, between Christmas and, you want the room for 3 days? So we're going to have it for 3 days. First day we get there. I walk in because my dad is like was always promptness is the courtesy of king. So I'm always like I'm always on time for everything as much as humanly possible. I'm on time to a fault, very punctual. And so I was punctual, arriving at our 10 a.m. Let's get first day. Let's get everything set up. Maybe we'll be recording by 5 or something. And I walk in and I hear fans going. Like rotator fans, and it was a sound I'm not used to hearing in the studio. And I walk in and I see like 3 inches of water, the whole studio, and their fans are running and everything. And it's like they had both. They're underneath the studio is located beneath the American Pub in Conshohocken.
Okay, yeah,
I know that at all, but on Fayette Street, and they had it wasn't in the main room, but it was bad enough. It was bad. And I walk in. Phil is hilarious. He always has a good spirit about everything. He knew. I'm sure when he saw me, he knew that I was like, "Oh motherfucker, I'm fucked again, fucked again." And but he was just like, "Well, we're gonna start a little bit later, I think, and but so it ended up we really only we got in there at like 9 o'clock that night. We were able to at least get set up and get sounds. So we didn't record till the next day. And so we recorded all 11 songs in 2 days. So, big deal. They in the 50s they did it in 2 hours. All right.
That's right.
But it was our little thing. But still, the record took fucking 2 years because between finalizing those, getting the right vocals. There was intricate vocal shit going on. I orchestrated all the horns and strings for it, and then I had notated it with a friend of mine who's much faster than myself and could do it on computer. But all that just took so long. It felt like 10 years. So this my commitment this time around is I want to I'm like how about a week? Let's do it in a week,
Yeah.
And so we'll see what happens.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, sir, I would love to put you through what we affectionately call the Jawntlet here.
Right. This is the scary part for me. I'm never good at this stuff. I'm just telling you that right up the bat. Let me look at these questions here.
All right.
Or do I need to look at them, or you just?
No, I'll read them off to you. So,
okay.
So we start with the one.
I can't really see it, so. I can tell you, Sammy Hagar or David Lee Roth, I just was never a fan of really either. I think they're both talented, but not a fan.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I'll take Eddie Van Halen above either of them. So
sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think Sammy Hagar is a good singer and apparently a good club owner.
Yeah.
David Lee Roth, I met, he was a complete asshole.
No.
So I'm going to say Sammy Hagar or David Lee Roth. I'm going to say Eddie Van Halen.
Okay. I like it.
Cool.
I like it.
Okay.
The next one.
Just run? Are you asking me, or should I just run
I'll
these down with you? Okay, good. I'm taking your show. Sorry, man. I told you I'm a control freak. I just take shit over.
That's cool. It's cool. You can be. I'll be your co-host.
Okay.
Biggie or Tupac? Are you a hip hop guy? Do you get into?
I am not. It is not, nor has it ever really been my regular go-to listening. But of course, I'm. It's pretty mainstream at this point. Tupac, without question, for me.
All right.
I just think infinitely more melodic, and there's something more believable to me about everything he did. So.
Cool.
I'm probably a little more familiar too with straight up Tupac than Biggie stuff. So there you go.
All right, Nirvana or Pearl Jam?
Let me tell you something related to that, though.
Yeah, go right ahead.
You can tell me to shut up at any point, but
it's not going to happen.
I was in a band in 1982, I guess, in Hamilton, Ontario, right across the bridge from Niagara Falls, New York, on the Canadian side. Niagara, and we had a very unoriginally named band called Niagara, and I met these guys while working in a mall. When I moved up there, I was working for my dad in a mall, Rainbow Mall. It is no longer there. And I met these guys, and they were like, "Yeah, when I saw them, I was like, you guys got to be in a band or something." I was just like walking around like the food court, getting a corn dog or something. And I was like, "Look at these guys! You guys in a band or something?" And this mall was like desolate. That's why it doesn't exist anymore, too. It was just like the worst business move ever. It became like a koi pond or something. So we had a band called Niagara. I ended up moving my keyboards down to their spot in Niagara Falls the next night because I was like, "Yeah, I'm a musician. Oh, we could use key." And we ended up rehearsing there every night for like a year and a half or something, or over the course of a year and a half. We were rehearsing all the time, and then we got a development deal, and our development deal was with Sire Records, and they gave us like $10,000 to cover like flights and hotels and shit to go to New York and record some demos, and our manager at the time managed the Fat Boys, and
no kidding,
yeah. Just died,
Prince Marquis D.
But I knew nothing about that stuff. I mean, I knew, my connection to, African American music was all through, more Motown, soul, that kind of stuff. I really wasn't too hip to. Still, rap was still freaking new,
Yeah.
I mean, I was working in kitchens, and I was being turned on to Grandmaster Flash and all that stuff. So, but so it was still very new, and I was, whatever. I was a white kid playing, Pippin, the soundtrack to Pippin, or whatever, short story is that he was their manager, but it was the one big tour they ended up opening for Run DMC, doing arenas, and so we went and hung out with Run DMC and the Fat Boys on their bus, at the Niagara Falls Convention Center or whatever the fuck it was, I think something like that, and. But just like what I could not have been more of a fish out of water. So I was just like, "Hi guys, how are you? It's so good to meet you. Your music is splendid." I don't know. That's an exaggeration. Okay. All right, go ahead. Back to the program.
Unbelievable.
Sorry.
No, I love it.
I had a cup of coffee right before I got you on the phone here because I was like, I just taken a little I ate some dinner and I took a little cat nap. I woke up, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so tired. But coffee affects me greatly. So anyway.
Nirvana or Pearl Jam?
It's a tough one. I bet I'll say Pearl Jam because of just strictly for longevity's sake and the fact that I just respect the shit out of their ability to stay together, continue to put out, if not music that I find personally super memorable or exciting. Some of it is, some of it's not bad. It's just not really my thing, but they're all great musicians, great players, and the fact that they've been able to survive this long and survive with, in my opinion, a whole lot of class. I'm going to go with them, but fucking mad respect for everything Nirvana as well. It was just very short lived, and And then they spawned that evil Dave Grohl, who's destroying anger in the music business for everybody.
Yeah, right. You can't be too nice, guy.
I met him once too. He could not have been nicer.
It doesn't surprise me, man. It doesn't surprise me.
And I met Stone Gossard was in a band called Brad with Chuck Treese. Chuck at all?
Yeah.
So they were doing the Brad thing with Chuck, and that guy since died. I forget his name. He was Sean. He was really good. They had one record that did well in like XPN, AAA radio, whatever. but they were around Philly a couple times, and Stone was just could not have been a cooler dude. He was just so nice, you know.
That's awesome.
All right, next.
The big one, Beatles or Stones?
It's tough, but Beatles, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the Stones, dude. I mean, Beatles for their perfection, Stones for their aggression. I love them both equally, but if I have to make a choice, I'm going with the Beatles.
All right. Do you have a favorite Beatle?
It changes, but I mean, it was George for the longest time. But again, due to longevity and accomplishment and ability to continue whether or not I like it or it's amazing musically, but the ability to continue to create music as in as high quality and appear to be as such a respectful human being, I'm going to go with, Paul.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Last one of the one-hit wonders, Prince or Michael Jackson?
Prince.
Yeah. Dude, this has come up a lot throughout the course of this show, but just the ability of that dude to just play everything, track everything, and then,
I mean, Michael was amazing, but he, I don't need to tell you Mike's story because you know it, but they just had very different kind of careers is the way I look at it, and Michael was the, unfortunately, was kind of had to deal with the downside of being brought into the music business at such a young age. And I think it's fucked him up, and I think he was genuinely screwball, I don't think that I know a couple people that have met Prince and have worked with him, and they both say that slightly kooky when you first meet him, but then he's just a guy who just really he's dead now. Right. They're both dead now, by the way. Everybody's and we will be too eventually, but
someday.
They're I mean. I kind of lost my train of thought, but Prince is just. I mean, he's. I think he was a guy who just loved to play music.
Yeah.
And I don't honestly think he was into the fame side of it. It was a byproduct of kind of his genius, versus I think Michael actually sought fame, and that was because it was instilled by his father and the band growing up. That was like we're going for the toppermost of the poppermost. Prince was just like, I got a band and we're fucking good. You're going to probably like it, and eventually the whole world did. So. And it took him. It was a slow burn, man. You ever see those videos of shit being thrown at him? Opening for Rolling Stones. Oh, poo poo! I'm opening for the Rolling Stones. But in that era, and and in the grand scheme of things, he did. I mean, because back early restaurant days, I remember when Controversy came out, and a couple of the little African American college girls that worked at the restaurant were like, hey, Prince, and I'm like. Nah, never heard of him. They'd show me the record. It would be the vinyl, and I'm like, what the?
Yeah.
This guy, And, so I don't even know if it wasn't, maybe it was Controversy. It was probably earlier because Controversy is like third record or something like that, but I don't know. Next.
Okay. So those were the one-hit wonders. Now the top 10 countdown. These are just favorites. We talked about this a little earlier, but I use Jawn interchangeably to be anything you want it to be. So there is no parameters around what you want your answer to be. But number one, what was your first Jawn? What was the first thing you remember being obsessed with when you were young?
I think the first record I got obsessed with, honestly, was Venus and Mars, Paul McCartney and Wings, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, Elton John, and because I kind of talked about this earlier, but it's true. These were I remember when I was 8 or 9. Getting these, my brother getting these records, and you got to play them again. And the last one was not the Who's Tommy, but Tommy as played by the London Symphony Orchestra.
Wow. Okay.
With all these like guests and stuff. So it was like kind of like a Broadway version of Tommy before there was a Broadway version of Tommy. Pete Townsend, he's no dummy. He knew how to diversify.
Yeah.
I'd say like, I mean, as far as any kind of like modern rock stuff is concerned, I would say, it was definitely that kind of thing. I was pretty into that stuff. I always liked guys that could play piano too. So I saw Paul actually playing piano. I didn't realize he was a piano player too. Who knew that he played everything? I just thought he was like the guy in Wings. I knew he came from that band, the Beatles, because this was all over by then.
Yeah.
You know what? So Sergeant Pepper's got to go in there too. So yeah, Sergeant Pepper. I just not good. Yeah. Now I'm gonna say Sergeant Pepper was because it was just the record cover.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, this is cool. It's got a lot of stuff on it. After that, it went into like Kiss Alive, So, my taste got a little hinky for a while there. So, until I found New Wave. Okay.
All right. Number 2. What is your current, John? What are you into right now? What are you vibing? What are you feeling?
I hate everything. Anybody tell you I'm kind of a curmudgeon? I don't impress easily right now because I'm definitely of an age where I don't want to say I've heard it all before, but it all sure as heck sounds mighty familiar. I'm not a big fan of like new, like kind of, in the last 15 years, whatever, you think of like bands like Fleet Foxes or something,
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I really kind of, when they first came out, I was like, oh, that's cool. I love the harmonies and everything, But now so many bands are like all about sound. And I actually I liked War on Drugs. I think they're good. But I always find, like, I was just listening to their live record the other day, which I don't really listen to a whole lot of music for some reason lately. Just because I'm so involved in my own projects or whatever. I like to hear NPR just talking at me or something. But I was listening to their record, and to be honest, short of the Under the Pressure, they're kind of the sort of hit-ish song from like a couple years ago, whatever, and their cover of a Warren Zevon tune, which was like, oh God, this song's great. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, wait a minute, that's Warren Zevon, right?
Yeah.
All right, I'm not answering your question. I'm going to answer your question. What am I really into lately that I like a lot? I've definitely been going back to some of the stuff that I was really into in the early 2000s and revisiting it. And that would be Badly Drawn Boy, for instance, which is, I don't know if you're familiar with him at all. It's very orchestrated, kind of quirky pop stuff that I really love. What else do I I've just been listening to that again recently a lot. I've also been revisiting a lot of early 70s country music just because of the project I'm doing. I'm kind of just a little bit, I'm seeing, I did a tour in 1996, a solo tour in Europe. I played about 10 shows with Townes Van Zandt, and it was right before he died, and he was, I didn't get it, to be honest. I had heard of his myth and everything for years, but when I saw him, it was kind of like, I mean, it was sad because he just was not, he was in terrible shape and he really couldn't perform very well. But in these European audiences would show up in these, we were playing like 300 capacity rooms, basically, where like now if he rose from the dead and started playing something, he'd be playing freaking like arenas,
Yeah.
Because the myth is so huge. But he was just so rickety. It was difficult to, to really get too involved with. Then he borrowed $60 from me, and I never got it back. Yeah. So I'm, man, I tell you, what am I most obsessed with? I'm obsessed with revisiting a bit of my past right now.
I like it. Number 3, what was the first concert you went to?
I mean, as a kid, we went. My parents were pretty cool about taking us to see things, to see music. I remember. These are going to sound super corny, but I got to tell you, they were amazing. We saw Harry Belafonte.
Yeah,
he was amazing. That would have had to have been 1969 or 1970. Saw Liza Minnelli. She was unfucking believable. With a huge orchestra and everything, and she was huge at this point too. Really, I mean, that was like, this is like probably 1971. She was, just kind of like, she was still a thing,
Yeah.
And then, we went to. I remember we went to see. We went to. Expo 67. So Expo 67 was the 1967 World's Fair. We didn't go in 1967. We went in 1969 because they just kept it as a fair running in Montreal, and so we Montreal or Toronto, I can't remember. And but we saw a bunch of music then. I remember seeing like Up With People. Does that ring a bell to you at all?
Yeah, I know exactly what that.
Okay, and me going like, that looks like fun,
Yeah.
I mean, a little kid, I'm like, look at all those colorful shirts, But they got drums and bass, and there's guitar, electric guitar. So I thought that was pretty neat. But the first, I'd say the two first real concerts I saw was when I was 10. We saw Tommy. We saw the Who, and then when I was about 12 or 13, my sister took me to see the Eagles. Eagles
nice.
With Pure Prairie League. What am I saying? ZZ Top, not the Eagles. It was ZZ Top Fandango tour. Tush and all that. With Pure Prairie League opening up. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Rochester Memorial. I always remember that. I've seen so many shows because I also, having nothing to do with being a kid, but in my adult life, semi-adult life, I don't know, I still don't know if I'm an adult, but I've been accused of not being. So, I worked for Electric Factory Concerts for almost 10 years too. So
okay.
Saw a shitload of shows, met a shitload of people, never taking pictures because back then, of course, one, we didn't have the phones like we do now, two, it's just weird. You don't do that, it's kind of frowned upon, but talking about just sitting at a table, hanging out, talking to Neil Young, sitting at a table, talking to Jackson Brown, David Crosby, Bruce Hornsby, Patti Smith. I like so many people literally running into Elvis Costello in a hallway, physically running into him. And hey, mate, Hey, great fucking times. Neat.
That's awesome. Number 4, what was your last concert? What was the last show you went to?
Me, because we were on tour before this all happened here. That's what. But before I don't know if you know that, but like before, not that it's a big deal or anything, but like a lot of people, we were in Europe. We were 10 shows into a 42 show tour in Italy, Spain, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, blah 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 blah. We didn't make it much past Spain. So
wow.
And then it was just like talk about we all lost thousands and thousands of dollars, and it was like imagine 5 grown men crying in a van, rolling down the ramp. It's just like what the fuck is going on with the world, And it's like we were, because in Europe too, like in Berlin, fucking army tanks rolling through. It was just like you're what's going on in your head is like what I'm revisiting. I'm getting emotional right now thinking about it. It's like it was such an emotional time. But before that, what did I see? Concerts. I think the last thing that like I saw as like we're going to a concert was Paul McCartney.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Like a big because I can't stand him anymore because I worked for the Electric Factory. I'm totally jaded. I call them up to this day. Hey, do you have any tickets for blah blah? And they still hook me up and shit. Because previous to that, right before I went on tour, I do this thing, Light of Day, every year. which raises money for Parkinson's research and stuff. But it's Bruce Springsteen has a component. He's been a long time kind of partner of the mission, and so I was fortunate enough to, right before I went on tour, I played a show in Asbury Park at the theater in Asbury Park. I always call it the Brown Theater, but that's in Kentucky. Whatever, the freaking theater in Asbury Park, and it was neat because I was on stage with Bruce, so it was pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, that was better than going to a concert.
Yes.
Yeah.
Number 6.
Fucking Thunder Road with Bruce Springsteen. That was cool.
My God. Yeah. Did you get to go back to back? Because that's like my dream, is like to go back to back and share the mic.
No. I was like 6 bodies away from Bruce.
Okay. Still.
It was close enough. It looked good in the photos.
That's all that matters.
Yeah. And but I did play right before he went on stage. Like, I did my set, and he said I played My America that night too.
Oh, sweet!
And later that night we went to this tiny little bar, probably 80 of us in this small bar, like the Dawson. There was probably like 80 people in there. But Bruce was there, and we got to talk and hang, and he's like, I like that America song, but I didn't even know he kind of knew who I was. He's like, Ben Arnold, Philly Ben Arnold. Yeah, I know you are. Because my name has been around him for many years.
Sure.
He's not inviting me to his house for dinner, but because I was so nervous about like going up and talking to him, and. But I had a friend, Willie Nile. I got a friend, this guy Willie Nile. Do you know Willie Nile at all? He's like kind of a iconic Jersey, New York. Years ago, he was like the next Dylan, the next Springsteen, whatever. But he's still working to this day, and he sounds great. But it was like, no, Willie, come on. And he's like when Bruce plays at Madison Square Garden or at the stadium, Meadowlands, whatever, he gets Willie to come up on stage with him and stuff. So it's like, Willie, come on, introduce me to Bruce. He knows who you are. He knows who you are. He doesn't fucking know who I am. He's like, yeah, Bruce, Ben Arnold. Yeah. Philly Ben Arnold. Yeah. And then we ended up standing there talking for like 15 minutes. It was fucking amazing.
That's awesome.
Nice guy. It sucks to meet your heroes and have them be assholes. He was definitely not an asshole. He was like, could not have been kinder.
That's so
I'm sorry.
Cool.
I'm sorry. I just like started going off on tangents.
Dude, I told you there's no format here. I love it. I'm all for it. Number 6, who did you never see live that you always wished you had, living or dead?
Like short of like Louis Armstrong.
That counts.
Okay, I would have. I would die tomorrow if I got to see Louis Armstrong today. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of those cats from that era that are just like mind-blowing talents that as time goes on, they're just names, and I mean, unless you're a muso to some degree, or whatever, but they're the chance to see fucking Billie Holiday live or I mean, just any number of people. I mean, there's just some, shit. Let's go see Mozart. I heard he's gigging down the Dawson. He's bringing his little pianette, with a tip jar, because that's big. I mean, that's how these guys kind of started out. Really, they were essentially slaves, servants working for, and then eventually you write enough good stuff, you get a better house.
That's right. It's the dream.
And then you die.
You die. Number 7, name an unappreciated Jawn. Something you love that wish had more shine to it.
Okay. How about this? Well, it's their fault because they broke up, but there was a band called Convoy back in the very early 2000s that I just thought made the most amazing record, and it just was like, gone. Disappeared into the ethers. Convoy, look them up.
I will. I'll definitely have to check that out.
Weekends, gotta work it out. They were like, I mean, they're so good. And if you can find the demo of their record is better than the record itself.
Okay.
Yeah. And
I always find that to be true.
Over like, what's that?
I said I always find that to be true. Like those early demos of stuff, and you get to hear it raw.
It's pretty much exactly like it, but just to me, it just sounds better and just a little looser, and
Mm-hmm.
But they're pretty amazing. So that's what I'll go with for right now.
Perfect. Number 8, favorite album.
That's too hard. mean, there's like, what's yours?
My favorite album, oddly, and it's less to do with the album itself and more about where it puts me the second it comes on and I have to listen to it straight through, is the album Pinkerton by Weezer.
Yeah, there you go.
Like it's like a time machine. Like the second it starts, I'm like, oh, I'm in my college dorm, and here's that heartbreak I went through.
What is it, 1998 or something?
It was like 96, I think. Yeah, right around there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they were pretty. Yeah, they were pretty good. I saw them back then with Tenacious D opening up. It was so good. It was such a great show. It was so much. It was just so silly. I mean, it was I didn't even really know what I was going to see. I kind of knew Weezer, but I didn't really. I went with some friends, whatever, that kind of thing. And I was like, that was fun. Okay, what was the question? Oh, favorite album. Yeah. I mean, it's so hard. So I'm just gonna, I could say that. I could do that. I could say Jeff Buckley's Grace and say,
goddamn, yeah,
and say, it takes me immediately to 1994, driving around and up and down the East Coast playing gigs, and I ended up, just driving around playing gigs, and me and my buddy Christopher Colucci. It was me and a guitar player, me and this guy Christopher Colucci. That's how I got my first record deal. We were just going up and down the East Coast playing we were playing my music, which was kind of like sort of, collegey, alternative-y, kind of sensitive songwriter, but with an edge kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the fuck it was. It got me a deal. We would play Jeff Buckley's Grace, and Nevermind, and the Counting Crows, August, and everything after. We would play them incessantly on rotation, occasionally being interrupted by like Joni Mitchell Blue or something, to break up the monotony. But man, I mean, so I'm going to go with that. It's tough because I like so many. I mean, is it Steely Dan? Is it Asia? I don't know. Is it the White Album? I don't know. That's a tough one. I refuse to be narrowed down to one record.
Okay. All right. That's cool. I'll take it. Number 9, name an artist whose output you'll consume anything they release, even if you have to be an apologist for it.
Living or dead?
Yeah, either way.
Is it the idea that it's somebody that's still putting out stuff, or
no? It's just like anything anything they release, you'll eat it up, or they have released.
And I have to pick one, huh? Because there's a few, but I mean, I'm going to say Bruce. I will give everything that he puts out a shot.
Yeah.
To this day, I don't love it all. I really don't. Sometimes I'm just like. There have been records in the last 15 years where I'm going like, yeah, you can do it. Why don't you just wait a couple of years and then do something a little better, But so I'm gonna, because it's Bruce, it's Neil Young, even Neil. I'll listen to anything. Newer stuff. Elvis Costello. I mean, I'll pretty much listen to anything he puts out. It's always quality,
Yeah.
So yeah, if we got to go with one right now, we're going with what did I say? I'm going with
Bruce. You were going with Bruce.
Yeah, we're going with Bruce. Yeah. What's the church say?
Oh, it's
Run DMC.
It's a Run DMC logo for Fort Washington disc golf. I'm a disc golf player. So.
Do you know Andy King?
I do know Andy King. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I sent him a message to try to get him on the podcast, and he ignored it. So
he ignores everything. He lives on his own little island.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's a good guy. Good guy.
Yeah. I've been obsessed with disc golf as long as I can remember. Like,
really?
I was like, what is that? I had no idea even what it was. Yeah. I mean, I might have known him for 35 years or something, and
yeah,
I've been friends with all those Hooters guys for since '86 or something, I've because they rehearsed near me and I kind of knew them all, and I've become, and I also, I also work with like Eric Brazilian, play guitar and all, one of my records, the whole thing, and we're buddies every time. When I'm in Sweden, I go to visit him. When he's here, we go hang out, that kind of thing. So, and Dave was sick, and I'm in the pocket with Dave and that whole little crew. I don't know if you ever seen that show. It's not
I
my.
haven't seen that.
Don't blink, her. You won't see me. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
What was the question? Did I miss it again?
Well, no, I was just getting to it. The 10th and final of the top 10 countdown. What is your favorite Jawn of all time? Could be anything.
Pan-fried dumplings at Sankey.
Oh my God, that's perfect. I love it.
That's probably one of my favorite Johns of all time.
I love it. I love it. So if the people listening want to check you out, where's the best place to find you on the internets?
Well, I'm going to say that over the course of the pandemic, I've been, by comparison to other people, probably a little lackluster in the area of social media, but you know, I got a website, benarnold.com, and from there you can find any of my Instagram, Facebook. Go to the Facebook band page. Don't go to the Facebook friend page because it's all full up, and I post things occasionally, and you know, so I'm everywhere. I mean, you know, you Google me, I'm the first Ben Arnold that pops up. I'm pretty. I can't hide.
Awesome.
I've realized though, have you ever done? It's such a vain thing to do, but I only do it because I'm curious. Like things get announced or whatever. But I do the Google. What's it called? Google.
The alerts.
Oh right, yeah. With my name,
yeah.
Ben Arnold. And damn, there's so many more Ben Arnolds in the world than I had any idea. They just, I mean, I get them every day from somebody somewhere that's named Ben Arnold, and often they're involved in the music business or some offshoot of music business or music education or some, you know, it's kind of interesting to me because I hated my name growing up. My name was Bennett Arnold. I actually have three first and middle names, Bennett Lee Arnold. They're all interchangeable. And, but I went with Ben from a long time ago. Most are Benjamins, but yeah, man, there's a whole lot of Ben Arnolds out there. A lot in England. I didn't realize it's a very English name. I don't know why I never put Benedict Arnold in there. I don't know why I never put it all together, but you know, sure enough, that's what it is. What about yourself? What are you going to be playing at all? Or?
I got some shows lined up. I don't know if you've ever been to Tex-Mex Connection in the suburbs, but it's in the Philly burbs. But I'm playing some summer outdoor gigs there, and then once all this clears up, I hope to get back out and try to do some more original shows. Like that's mostly covers and stuff, but I'm hoping to get back out there. I miss it.
Yeah, cool. So can I plug a show?
Yeah, absolutely. Plug away.
I'm doing a live stream, which I've done a bunch of them. I got a little burn on it, but I'm doing one from the Kennett Flash. It doesn't matter where you're doing it from anymore, but they do a great job with production. But I am just doing it solo. I'm doing a show from Kennett Flash on. Do you know Cliff Ellis?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, me and Clifford we're just teaming up and doing not in the round because we'll be next to each other, but the two of us are doing a co-bill Saturday, April 17th. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll put some links up to that and stuff like that
awesome.
on this and all that.
And, you know, but other than that, not doing a whole lot of. I got a few shows over the summer, just kind of warming into it a little bit. But who knows, man? You know, what were you able to work throughout the year? Or? Yeah,
nonstop. As a matter of fact, my day job kind of tripled in the volume that we do. So I've been hustling hard since day one, and then doing this on the side, doing live streams on the side, and just trying to stay busy. But it's definitely.
When I got back. I've for 21 years I've taught very part-time at a small school in Philly, where it's like it had been like 2 periods a day for 2 days a week kind of thing, teaching music to like high school kids, and but like kind of like high school rock band, and when I got back. We kind of meandered got our way through to June, but then the head of the school, who's a good buddy of mine, said, I'm sorry, my phone's going back. It said, look, you're not going to be playing much. How about I offer you a better job? And so he gave me a job that's kept me afloat for a while. Let me just do this. Okay. But, staying afloat. So I don't know. what do you say?
All right, man. I say thank you very much for doing this.
Nate, I appreciate it. You'll send me a link or let me know or whatever.
I will. I'm going to start editing this down, and then
all right, make me not sound stupid. Okay.
All right, man. Thanks again. Thanks for everything.
Thank you, Nate.
My thanks again to Ben Arnold for joining me today. Ben will be performing a live stream event for the Kennett Flash alongside Cliff Hillis on Saturday, April 17th at 8 p.m. The stream is free but has a suggested donation of $15. Visit kennettflash.org/events for more details. That's KENNETT flash.org/events. You can find Ben on Facebook at facebook.com/Ben Arnold Band, on Instagram at Ben Arnold Music, on Twitter at Ben Arnold Band, and on his website www.benarnold.com. If you have not already, please be sure to subscribe to the podcast on all of your favorite podcast providers and share it across the social medias. All the cool kids are doing it. You want to be cool, don't you, nerd? Don't you? Peer pressure, we won't like you. Tell all your friends about it. And don't forget, you can earn yourself that truly super awesome Jawn Scout Merit Badge for Citizenship of the World by rating and reviewing us. Don't believe me? Ask Tim Conley, our first recipient of the Jawn Scout Merit Badge. It actually exists, folks. Don't forget to visit www.yothat'smyjawn.com and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/yothat'smyjawn for updates and live streams. Follow us across the socials at yothat'smyjawn and find Yo That's My Jawn on YouTube for all kinds of video treats. Like and subscribe the heck out of that ish. We want to hear from you. Reach out, and touch some Jawn. Season 2 has officially begun and episode 1 is in the books. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope you join us next week for our first mini-sode of the podcast. Thanks for allowing me to stimulate the 3 small bones located in your tympanic cavity. Until next time, everybody!
Displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure. Your taste in music doesn't have to be measured. You ain't being judged.
Yo, That's My Jawn is a Lonely Monk production written and produced by yours truly, Nate Runkle. Theme song by Phil Tyler Music featuring Nate 3.0. Special thanks to Fox Run Brands, DX Ferris, Andrew Scott, Natalie Runkle, and the incredibly brilliant and wickedly stunning Katie Daubney. If you or anyone you know has any ideas they would like to share or any guests they would like to hear on the podcast, please feel free to reach out to us at yothat'smyjawn@gmail.com. Or you can leave an audio message for us and possibly hear yourself on a future episode by visiting anchor.fm/ytmj/message. Until next time, be sure to displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure and shout to the world, yo, that's my Jawn.